We on Fire Sports Podcast, the spot. Season number 4, episode number 32. First and foremost, man, the weekend is here, man. I hope you guys had a great week. Hope you guys are able to definitely let your head down and relax this coming weekend and enjoy the sporting landscape. If it's your first time listening, I appreciate your ear. We on Fire Sports Podcast, the spot. We provide high-fire takes and analysis across the sporting landscape. And if you're an OG of the show, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. Man, here on episode number 32, man, we're going to go through a litany of things, man, across the sporting landscape. Know you guys have not heard the whole situation of Charles Barkley basically going off on ESPN and just the coverage and how they cover their basketball coverage over there at ESPN. Ironically enough, the Inside the NBA crew will be licensed over to ESPN next year for the show. So I'm going to get into that. Also, we got beef out here in these streets. We got young beef out here in these streets, man. Not sure if you guys have definitely seen this as well. LeBron James ran up on Stephen A. Smith during the Lakers and Knicks game out in Los Angeles. They had a few choice words. Gonna get into that. Also, sticking to the NBA, Kyrie Irving, man, unfortunately out for the season with the torn ACL earlier this week. As the nightmare for Dallas just continues and continues. I'm going to speak my piece on that. Also, too, man, I got my Big Five, man. My Big Five NBA teams, man, so far as we mosey on along in the NBA season. I'm going to get into that. And also, too, can't forget about the National Football League, man. There's been a few movements across the NFL. A few big-name players getting released. A few OG moves. So I'm going to get into the National Football League as well. But first and foremost, man, sticking to the topic at hand, Charles Barkley versus ESPN. Now, I was watching the coverage of TNT on Thursday, as I always do, man. And first and foremost, just love Inside the NBA, man. It's a great show. To me, it's the best basketball show, in the basketball universe. So shout out to, Kenny and Ernie and Shaq and obviously Chuck and all the people down there at TNT, not too far from my residence. So I definitely always get a kick every time I'm down there, man, in just the Atlanta area, right off of 85 and just the whole little fortress they got over there at TNT. But, man, Chuck went off the rails. And, he came at Kendrick Perkins at ESPN just with the Lakers, just coverage of just Lakers. And also, too, he threw in the Golden State Warriors in there. And I will say this, because Chuck, he was pissed off, man, because he felt all what ESPN do is just simply cover the Los Angeles Lakers and talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. When you got a couple teams out here, man, that's just definitely putting in work in the league. You got the whole situation with the Oklahoma City Thunder. They on fire. You got the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is a team on fire. They've been hot as a firecracker all season long. You obviously got the defending world champions, the Boston Celtics. Also, too, another team I'm going to get into a little bit later. The surprise turnaround, man, and put some respect on their name. Detroit stand up, the Detroit Pistons. And so I say all that to say this. I agree with Charles Barkley. Because not just First Take, because First Take was the first, people to kind of just, speak on, the subject. But it's not just First Take. It's primarily my beef is really with Get Up, the show on ESPN, man, that come in the morning that lead into First Take. All they do is talk about the Lakers non-stop. I mean, they can literally be talking about another ball club, whether it be Phoenix Suns not playing well or whoever it may be. And they're always going to just throw alley-oop to LeBron James. And to me, it is sickening. Because at the end of the day, everybody knows that the NBA ratings is down. And there's a lot of reasons that the NBA ratings are down. One is that primarily your young fan base, they're not finna sit around and watch 2 hours of basketball no more. Them days are over. Especially with the internet, just clips, whether it be Facebook or TikTok or YouTube. Nobody's sitting around watching a 2-hour basketball game anymore in the young demographic. Now, me, I love the league, and so I always make sure I watch at least a couple games, during the course of the week, not only for the show, just for my love for basketball, man. And so that's one of the reasons the ratings down. Two, the OGs, they don't like the product, which I agree that, you look at an average NBA game, man, dudes shooting 43s, man. And so, that's something that at the end of the day, if dudes was making the threes at a high clip, you wouldn't have no issues with me here. But I see dudes who really can't shoot like that, chucking up the tray ball, man. So at the end of the day, those are really, kind of the main reasons why the ratings went down. But back to Chuck. And I feel that he was spot on. Because part of, building up the brand of the league is not to talk about the same old thing. And that's what's turning a lot of people away. A lot of people say, well, LeBron, he draws ratings in. Of course he does. And I'm not saying not to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers, because they've been playing some good basketball over the last 3 weeks. So I'm going to give what credit is due. Do I feel like, they in a situation where they are going to be a bona fide championship contender? I'm not believing that right about now. Now, my opinion may change on that once I see a little bit more from the Los Angeles Lakers. Once I see them knock off a couple more quality basketball teams, as they did the Knicks, in Los Angeles the other day or last night in overtime. And so I'm in a wait-and-see approach with them. But one thing that did piss me off about First Take coverage was with Kendrick Perkins saying that, the Lakers and Luka and LeBron James are saving the NBA. No, it is not. No, it is not. And to me, to be able to save the NBA, it's going to be a collaborative effort of a lot of different factors. And part of those factors is that you have to pump up the other teams and the other great players across the league. Because a lot of criticism, especially from the younger demographic, saying like the old heads are basically hating. No, the old heads are not hating. Because the old heads appreciate good basketball. They appreciate Donovan Mitchell. They appreciate what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is doing right now, the MVP to me of the league, easy. And they appreciate Nikola Jokic being, what he is. They appreciate Jaylen Brown. So old heads or OGs appreciate good basketball. They just want to see good hoop. So it's not that. I think what the problem is a systematic thing. And we all know, and we're going to just go ahead and keep it real on here, because that's what we do, straight talk, no chaser. The best two players in the NBA are not American-born players. And a lot of people have an issue with that. I don't, because I like what David Stern, rest in peace, what he was able to do with the league and build it out internationally. So I don't have an issue with that. I just think at the end of the day, a lot of people are just in their feelings. And that's just kind of overall as, mankind as a collective. You can't tell nobody nothing nowadays. You can't have an alternative opinion nowadays. Because if you do, you're going to get swept under the rug as a hater. And that's not the case every single time. And so I agree just with Chuck and what he was saying in his sentiment is that the NBA has to do a better job of pumping up the other players, because at the end of the day is that LeBron is 40 years old. Steph is 36 years old. Kevin Durant is 36 years old. So the guys that, you're pumping up, or that supposed to be, quote unquote, the needle movers as far as the ratings in the league, these guys are not going to be here forever. And I just don't want to see good basketball, such as what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is doing with Oklahoma City. I don't want to see that swept under the rug, because the man is having an outstanding season, man. And this team, they have a puncher's chance at winning an NBA championship. And I know a lot of people, feel, counter to that. And I'm a little skeptical. I ain't going to front. It's a wait-and-see approach. I think that for them, they got to get their whole front court situation as far as a health situation together with their team. But to me, I think that's the main reason why a lot of people are kind of perturbed. And I thought Charles Barkley comments was spot on, and the timing of it was perfect. Because I was frustrated with every time I turn on ESPN, it's always about the Los Angeles Lakers. Find something else to talk about. At the end of the day, to me, it's lazy journalism. They go down the call sheet and put LeBron in there and block A, put LeBron in there and block D. And it's not that I don't like LeBron James. It's just from a standpoint of this other great players in the league also that are having great seasons. And as a network, you got to pump those players up if you want to build, the interest back up in the sport. Simple as that. And while we on the subject of LeBron James, I know you guys have seen by now the whole situation with him and Stephen A. Smith at the Los Angeles Lakers and New York Knicks game last night. as LeBron James ran up on Stephen A. Smith. Had some very choice words for Stephen A. Smith. There was no audio on it, so we didn't get an opportunity to see what was said. But Stephen A. Smith today on First Take, he kind of let us behind the curtain a little bit to express that LeBron James was not happy. And primarily those comments was about, his son and what he said, about his son. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute here. First and foremost, I'm a parent, so I do understand that, you're going to feel a certain kind of way when somebody's talking about your son or daughter. So I get all of that. But to me, there's a time and place for everything. And what I mean by that is that that's a conversation that should have been held in private. Meaning that if you feel a certain kind of way about, how he's saying about your son, you can handle that whole situation privately and not be a whole fiasco and not let it be a distraction to, not only the game, but reporters in your face after the game asking you simply, what was that all about and what was happening, what was cracking with that. Secondly, and I know a lot of people feel a certain kind of way about Stephen A. Smith just on the negative side and all of that, which is fine. I'm kind of straight down the middle with Stephen A. Sometimes he says and makes good points. Other times he makes points that I don't rock with per se, that I may disagree with. So I'm straight down the middle with Stephen A. Smith. Here's the thing, is that when your son becomes a professional athlete, he jumps in the ring with everybody else. And if you're OG of the show, you know how I feel about the whole Bronny James situation. And what I felt is that when he came into this league and he was drafted, that he was not an NBA player. I felt like, you got to earn the right to be an NBA player. Meaning that there's over 400 players in the league. Most of these guys, they would mop up anybody on, at your local LA Fitness, at your local park district and all of that. So I respect an NBA player as a professional basketball player. But for me, just to say that, hey, this guy is not a professional basketball player as far as the NBA standpoint, and that he's better served in the G League to develop his game, and I wish him well. Eventually, he will get up to the NBA on a more consistent basis and be a good rotational basketball player. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And so to me, I think Stephen A. Smith, he kind of kept it on the positive end as far as his feedback about Bronny James. Is that he said, and partly of what the reason that LeBron James was pissed off with him was about, was that he added extra heat on this kid by coming out tweeting out saying that, hey, he's better than most of these dudes in the league right now. And when you make comments like that, NBA players are going to feel a certain kind of way. And also, too, you put a target on the kid back and say if the kid come out and start his NBA career shooting 1 for 18 or 0 for 18 from three-point range, there's going to be some scrutiny behind the kid. And so, to me, to run up on the guy on big boss mode, on the sideline of an NBA game, I just thought it was beneath LeBron James. Meaning, at the end of the day, you and Rich Paul and your whole conglomerate of homeboys and friends, somebody got Stephen A. Smith number. Just holler at the man privately, especially as a black man. At the end of the day, man, if you got a difference with a guy and you got his information, just hit him up, because the comments that he said was a while ago, months ago, just in regards. And so he ran up on the man like it was straight on sight. And so to me, that's just the whole situation, man, is that when your son becomes a professional athlete, it's all up in the air, man, as far as criticism and scrutiny. And most people that I've heard that have criticized the whole situation with Bronny James is more so directed at just how the situation was handled and not just him personally, because most hoopers and most people who cover the sport, they want well wishes for the kid, just like everybody does. Want well wishes for the kid. He's a good kid. He doesn't get in trouble. He's a mild-mannered kid. He don't come in cocky or arrogant or nothing like that. It looks like he's willing to put the work in, and he's in the best situation that's best for him right now. Hooping in the G League, developing his game, getting better, so when he do come back to the NBA, he could be a solid rotational player for the Los Angeles Lakers or any team that he plays for moving forward. So that's my thoughts across that, man. Just in the first little salvo of the show, man. And like I said, man, for my OGs and people checking in for the first time, man, I appreciate your ear, and I appreciate all the love and the feedback. Coming up, I got the rest of the shows. We dove in a few other subjects across the National Basketball Association and in the National Football League. We on Fire Sports Podcast, the spot. Welcome back. And the NFL is just like the old soap opera as the world turns, as there's a lot of movement, as we have just wrapped up the whole NFL combine out there in Indianapolis, Indiana. It was a good look looking at the different prospects and just the coverage across the National Football League as we gear up for the NFL draft as well as NFL free agency. But before we get into the draft and free agency, there's always just those veteran OG people that are cut. And just a few names that just jumped out at me is the Washington Commanders. They released Jonathan Allen, stout defensive tackle for them. I thought, this guy's been a centerpiece of their defense for the past 8 seasons as his career with the Washington Commanders is over with as he joins the free agent pool. And I think there's going to be a lot of teams that's interested in Jonathan Allen. My Chicago Bears, we've been in the news making some power moves via trade with Ryan Poles and what he's been able to do to try to beef up the offensive line for the Chicago Bears. That could be a candidate to join his old teammate Sweat on the defensive line for the Chicago Bears. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be looking out for. Also, we had Devontae Adams that he was released by the New York Jets as the Jets officially cleaned house. They got rid of Devontae Adams as well as Aaron Rodgers, also to the GM. So the head coach, Robert Saleh, early part of the NFL year last year. So they've completely turned the page and, just with them, with Aaron Glenn being the new head coach of the New York Jets, they come in with a clean slate. It's going to be interesting to see what the Jets do coming up in the NFL draft for their whole quarterback situation. Also, we got DK Metcalf, put it out there, man, asking for a trade from the Seattle Seahawks. DK Metcalf is one of my favorite receivers in the National Football League, man. Whether he coming with the blue or green hair, man, this guy's a cyborg. And he's always able to make big plays in football games and just those outstanding athletic plays, man. But I'm going to keep it 100, man, and be totally transparent. I just didn't feel that the Seattle Seahawks, got this guy the ball enough. Now, Geno Smith, he had a resurrection out there in Seattle playing some good football as he transitioned. He's a journeyman in the league the last couple of years before finding a home with the Seattle Seahawks. And so, I think that, they're a good team. They're in a tough division, by the way, the NFC West. But, I was liking what Seattle was doing, just bringing in a new head coach situation, moving on from Pete Carroll. And so I like just some of the pieces that they have, Jackson Smith and Jigma, but for them, I just think that they're in a transition period because we had Tyler Lockett, the super OG for the Seattle Seahawks. He got released. And now we got, just a situation with DK Metcalf asking to be moved on to another ball club. And what I'm hearing is, too, the price tag for Seattle, they put it out there, is pretty steep. Looks like it's going to start off with a first and a third round pick for this man's services. And there's some teams out there that I think that should kick the tires on DK Metcalf. And one of those teams that come to mind, and I'm going to keep it all the way a bill for you, who I think that this team, if they get him, they can move up to the next level. And that's the Los Angeles Chargers and Jim Harbaugh. I think that they need another receiver very badly. Quentin Johnson, he's a good receiver, but, he's a guy that, he's going to get you 2-3 catches a game, and that's basically it. Ladd McConkey, he did an outstanding job for them last year, man. The rookie for them coming from the University of Georgia. He did an outstanding job for them last year, man. But you got to get some more weapons out there, man, for Herbert, man. Because at the end of the day, just in the division that they in, you got to have a high-powered offense, man, to be competitive. They surprised a whole lot of people, man, moving on to the playoffs this year, just showing just the power of Jim Harbaugh, man. He's one of the best coaches in all of football, whether it be college or the National Football League. And so I think the Chargers would be an ideal situation for DK Metcalf. Not sure if they're going to pay that bounty to be able to get him, but that's the first team that came to mind, man, when I seen DK asking to get moved on out of Seattle, man, for the Seahawks. So we'll see what that thing do. And then, speaking of the NFL draft, as we have, about a month or so before the NFL draft coming up in April, it's just this whole move with Shedeur Sanders. There's been a lot of blowback with, a lot of different scouts and talent evaluators and people from the front office of NFL teams saying that they feel that Shedeur Sanders is a little bit cocky and a little bit arrogant. And, there's been a lot of uproar just in regards to that. Warren Sapp out here threatening coaches. We got, Stephen A. Smith being on one, just upset with just, feeling like they try to tear the man character down and all of that. And I'm going to just pose this out here for you guys, because I'm a fan of Shedeur Sanders and I wish him the best. I think he's definitely going to be a top 6 pick in the NFL draft. Going to be the second quarterback taken off the board in the NFL draft without question. So I'm a fan of Shedeur Sanders. I had an opportunity to actually see him play in person when he was down at Jackson State University. So I'm a fan of the kid and nothing but the best for him. But I'm going to pose this and throw this out here. First, when you show up to the combine and you not do any workouts, which he's not the first player to be able to do that, talent evaluators are going to feel a certain kind of way about you. Meaning that if you took the top 2 quarterbacks or top quarterback out of any NFL draft and he showed up at the combine basically saying, hey, I'll give you my medicals and that's it, the NFL executives, they're going to feel a certain kind of way about you. That's first and foremost. Secondly, which is the most intriguing thing to me that I was just kind of following along with this whole situation, is that Shedeur Sanders is part of the NIL collective. He's part of the athletes, getting millions of dollars while playing at their university, and they have every right to be paid. I definitely believe that. I do think that they should streamline it, because I feel like it has turned into the Wild Wild West a little bit. But I'm down with the youngest getting that bread, no question about it. But he's really kind of one of the first major guys to come into just the NFL universe, already a millionaire, a multi-millionaire. And obviously everybody know who his father is, Deion Primetime Sanders, multi-millionaire. They got 1 million commercials on television and all of that. So he's in a different situation coming into an NFL draft combine or NFL draft situation than, say, a quarterback 10 years ago. A quarterback 10 years ago that he may have seen a little bit of bread under the table, but for the most part, they came into the situation humble and hurting, and they had to make sure that every interview was crisp. They had to make sure that every workout was crisp, because they was trying to get to that bag. And so I just feel like Shedeur Sanders is the poster child for the NIL kid that coming in and that, hey, look, dude, I don't have to kiss up to you guys. I know I'm going to be automatically a top 10 pick and be the second quarterback taken. And if you want to see my talent, look at the tape. Also, too, I got a pro day coming up. You guys will be able to evaluate me at my pro day in just my environment. And I don't know if they expected this kid to come out to the combine and show up and show out, but his father didn't. As the legend goes, Deion Sanders ran the 40-yard dash and ran straight back down to Florida and chilled out at Florida State University. And so I didn't expect him to, go to Indianapolis and be able to, put his throwing prowess on display, be able to, do some of the drills that's associated with quarterbacks. So I didn't expect that coming in. So I do feel that some of the NFL execs, they're going to feel a certain kind of way about you, dude, when you don't participate in the combine. Two, you're a kid that's already financially stable coming into the situation. And third, your father is one of the most braggadocious athletes of all time. So they're going to feel a certain kind of way about you. But well wishes to Shedeur Sanders. As I mentioned, I think he's going to be the second quarterback taken off the board. Can't wait till he get into the National Football League. Try to light the league on fire where he may go. And we'll definitely get into that a little bit more as we get closer to the NFL draft. But first and foremost, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. We on Fire Sports Podcast, the spot. Before we get out of here, man, definitely got to hit you guys up with my NBA Big Five, my NBA Big Five power rankings as we mosey on through the NBA season. As March is upon us, springtime is upon us. So I have a Big Five springtime edition of my Big Five. But before I get into my Big Five, man, don't forget to definitely check me out at We on Fire Sports on Facebook, We on Fire Sports Podcast Also, too, on Twitter at We On Fire Sports. Also, too, on YouTube, man. Definitely shout out to the Weekly Dog Sports Betting Podcast, man, for having me on most recently, man, with the Hot Wire edition. Definitely kicking game across the NBA. Just my thoughts across the NBA. You guys can definitely check that out. And gentlemen, I at Firebox 2300. And so before I get into my big five, I just want to get into just a story that a lot of people are not putting a lot of gasoline on, a lot of flame on, man. And that's the emergence of the Detroit Pistons. This is a team that last year they was a running joke. They were one of the worst teams in the National Basketball Association. I mean, they was considered just a straight afterthought. And just the scene looked just very, very bleak for the Detroit Pistons. It wasn't because they didn't have St. Talent. Cade Cunningham, he's had an outstanding year. All-star capable year this season. And last year, he showed that, he still was a good NBA player. There was a lot of, talk, can he help the Pistons lead them to wins and victories? And a lot of people put this team in the trash, man. And so just to see where they at right now, presently 35-26 on the year. The playoffs started right now. This team sitting at the number 6 seed to be in the bona fide playoffs and avoid the play-in. And, oh, man, just what an outstanding job just that whole brain trust up there in Detroit has done. Just them playing just young, hard, aggressive basketball. Cade Cunningham, put some respect on his name because I love his game. His in-between game, his aggressiveness for going to the basket, not falling in love with shooting a million three-point shots. I think it's been, infectious across their organization and just their team overall. This is an organization that I thought rightfully so, just moved on from Monty Williams, just moved on in a different direction up in Detroit. And I thought it was well served. And, just the whole situation with JB Bickerstaff and just what he's been able to do up in Detroit. I tip my hat to just that whole movement, man, up in Detroit. Detroit stand up, Detroit versus everybody. So I definitely want to put some respect on the Detroit Pistons name, man, before I get into my big five. Is that they didn't make the cut, but you never know. This is a team that, before the end of the season, they make their debut, man, on my NBA Big Five. And so with all that being said, man, we're going to get right into it, man. Coming in at number 5. This is a team that a couple years ago, they was able to raise the Larry O'Brien Trophy, man, and win their first NBA championship as an organization. To me, they got the best player in the world right now, Nikola Jokic. And yeah, I'm talking about the Denver Nuggets. Right now, the Denver Nuggets, man, they sitting in the 3rd spot. They're about a half a game out from the Los Angeles Lakers. You had that 2 spot for a hot little second until the Lakers caught fire over the last couple of weeks. And Jamal Murray a couple weeks ago, had the 50-piece. And to me, he's the kickstarter for the whole team. Meaning that if Jamal Murray can get on playoff Jamal mode and just, what he was able to do, starting off back, a couple years ago in the bubble and play towards his capabilities, this Denver Nuggets team is definitely a force to be reckoned with. I think in the Western Conference, it's really all about matchups. And for me, just with them having the best player, the best front court player, a guy that can take you inside and outside, they're a matchup nightmare. And I know a lot of Lakers fans are just basically saying, man, Lakers don't fit the Denver Nuggets. The Lakers just knocked off the Denver Nuggets. I just think that what Denver is able to do with Mike Malone, I think is sustainable. And I think once we get into a playoff situation, depending on the matchups, I think Denver can potentially get back to the NBA Finals again. So I got the Denver Nuggets coming in at number 5, man. Like I said, I just like what this team is doing. I think last year, they kind of fell into, the fat cat mode, winning an NBA championship. And, just their guys just didn't play up to snuff. They had a few other, departures on their organization, most notably KCP moving on. So I'm liking what I'm seeing, man, from Denver this season, man. And shout out to Jamal Murray, man. He's finally getting his swag back, being, that high-tier player that he's capable of being, man. So I got the Denver Nuggets coming in at number 5. At number 4, this is a team that I ain't gonna front. I threw some dirt on earlier in the year, because I didn't feel like this team was a legitimate championship contender. I was a little bit frustrated with just all the coverage and all this about this organization and about this team. But this team won, got another gift from the NBA gods, bringing in Luka Doncic, for Anthony Davis. And yeah, I'm talking about the Los Angeles Lakers. One criticism about the Los Angeles Lakers that I had and with JJ Redick was that I didn't think that this team was a good defensive team. But they proved me wrong so far, especially during this stretch, is that they're playing with a conservative defensive effort. Now, LeBron James, he's 40 years old. He's having an outstanding year offensively. As far as him being a stout defender, them days have been gone. But I will say this. I'm loving, the play of Jerry Vanderbilt being just a wing piece. Rui, who had been, a little bit nicked up, over the past, say, week or so. But I just like his versatility. Austin Reeves playing, at a high clip. Obviously, you bring in Luka Doncic, and Luka Doncic has now got the wheels moving. He came in a little bit sluggish, but he hooping right now. Jackson Hayes playing well. So I give respect where respect and credit where credit is due. I got the Los Angeles Lakers coming in at number 4. I'm going to wait and see, though, before I crown them the next NBA champions, though. I'm going to wait and see before I crown them being able to get out of the treacherous Western Conference. So I'm just going to wait and see. But I do like what I'm seeing from them over the last couple of weeks. So shout out to Jeannie Buss and the Los Angeles Lakers. I got them coming in at number 5. At number 3. This is a team that's been playing outstanding basketball all season long, and they have one of the most special players across the whole National Basketball Association. Right now, he's in the front runner driver's seat, winning the MVP award. And you all know who I'm talking about, man. I got the Oklahoma City Thunder coming in at number 3. Just this team, man, and what they've been able to do just with the development of the young players. And I just think that first and foremost, their head coach, Mark does not get enough credit. He's done an outstanding job in the development of these young players. Jalen Williams, man, just being an all-star this year. I remember seeing this kid at Santa Clara. I thought he was going to be an NBA player, but I didn't envision him being just an all-star in his first couple of years in the league. He's playing some outstanding basketball, man, putting up high-octane offense right now, bringing it on the defensive end. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from Oklahoma City. Right now, like I said, they're sitting, at the top spot in the Western Conference. I think it's a wrap for that. I don't think nobody in the Western Conference will be able to catch Oklahoma City before the end of the year. And so to me, it's all about Chet Holmgren for them. Because I love the move that they made for Hartenstein, because they had to get some kind of size. Because last year came to burn them in the playoffs last year. But Chet Holmgren, to me, is the guy, man, is that they got him on the minute restriction. He's finally kind of getting the wheels rolling a little bit. So shout out to him, man, as far as I think he's the guy that's going to be able to help Oklahoma City get into a deep playoff run. Because at the end of the day, your big has got to be a serviceable big, especially when you got Nikola Jokic's out there just lurking out there. So I got Oklahoma City right now, man, coming in my number 3 spot. At number 2, this is a team, man, that won the NBA championship last season. Shout out to Jason Tatum. Shout out, to JB. And I just love just the job that Joe Mazzulla has done and just his command of this basketball team. This is a team that shares the basketball. Shout out to Mr. Benjamin Button, man, and Al Horford. And, Holiday has been out a little bit. He's been nicked up a little bit. Can get him back into the fold coming up soon, for him to, kick in the give before they make their playoff push. And there was a lot of people that was a little bit kind of down on Boston a little bit, maybe about a month or so ago. But they done kicked it up into high gear. Obviously they had the huge game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, last week, which to me was the game of the year, even though they took an L in that game. That was a very entertaining basketball game, man. To me, the best played game I've seen all season long. In Boston, man, they just gearing up for another run. Now, there's a collision course that's going on because I do think the Eastern Conference, not like the West, is really a 2-team race. But Boston, I think they've set their table, and right now they're ready to eat for the rest of the regular season. And we'll see what they do moving on into the playoffs, man, with that inevitable matchup with the team that's in the number 1 spot. My team in the number 1 spot, man, I got the Cleveland Cavaliers, man, coming in at the number 1 spot. As I just mentioned, man, just a huge win against the Boston Celtics last week. And just Donovan Mitchell being able to shed the ball. Darius Garland, man, just being a chop master. and just the pieces that they got too. Bringing in via trade DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks. Matt Strus playing some good basketball for him. Can't forget about Evan Mobley. And just the depth. They're a deep team. Can't forget about Jared Allen. Can't forget about Isaac Okoro. So I love the depth, and I thought that the move with DeAndre Hunter was spot on. Shout out to Kobe Altman. He's done an outstanding job, the general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers, just putting them in this position. And just Kenny Atkinson again. You guys are OG of the show. You know how I feel about Kenny Atkinson. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NBA right now. And just the attentiveness of this basketball team, man, and just the leadership for Donovan Mitchell. I had to have him at the number one spot. It looks like them in Boston, man, is coming down to a death race, man. Try to get out of the Eastern Conference. I can't wait for playoff time and to see that potential matchup. And so that's my NBA Big Five, man. My spring edition of the NBA Big Five. I think that the NBA right now is kicking into gear. There's a lot of good storylines across the NBA. Hopefully they can, get a pump up in ratings. On another basketball tip, we got the NCAA tournament coming up on the college end. So ratings probably do take a dip until the NCAA tournament is over a little bit. But I'm liking what I'm seeing across the board, across the league. And first and foremost, man, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you guys are able to take in the whole sport landscape. Sit back and relax and let your head down a little bit. And so I appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate your ear. We on Fire Sports Podcast, the spot.